Hey everyone, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're going to talk about the recent change to Elemental Blast for Shaman. First we saw it in the PTR, and then we saw the change this week in the latest build for Shadowlands. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's just take a step back. Elemental Blast has had a really rough road over its existence, specifically in Legion and in BFA. It was never taken. It wasn't really that viable because it was on the tier that it was on. It was on the tier up here with Echo of Elements. Why would you go Elemental Blast when you can go Echo of the Elements? This is now shifted to have Elemental Blast on the second tier, meaning you can go both Echo of the Elements and Elemental Blast. This got people very excited. Soon after that, though, there were some changes that made Elemental Blast a consumer of Maelstrom. It actually consumed 30 Maelstrom, and everyone was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So you could do an Earth Shock for 60 Maelstrom, and then you could Elemental Blast with a 30 Maelstrom and doing a pretty decent amount of damage in kind of that burst window. They also made a change where Elemental Blast is now buffing your haste or crit by 3%. It's not just a static number, it's actually a percentage. Also mastery by 6%. These are all positive changes in what looked to be a push towards Elemental Blast. They did do a few other things as well. They made Elemental Blast, when you spec into it, it actually pops up on the legendaries, saying when you cast Earth Shock or Elemental Blast, your next Earthquake will be buffed. Similarly here with the Earth Shock or Elemental Blast, procs Lava Surge and increased Lava Burst damage. This is great. This is a great way to get those procs, to get those legendary effects popping. So that was good. And then lastly, they made it so it would proc Surge of Power. When you owned a Surge of Power, they made it so Elemental Blast would proc Surge of Power. That playstyle was the single most fun playstyle I have played Enhanced Shaman in PvE. Period. Some people might have liked the Storm Ellie builds. Some people might have liked when, the recent changes with Ascendants. When Elemental Blast proc not only your legendaries, but Surge of Power, you started to get this phenomenon that was going on where you would use Elemental Blast, proc the legendary. It would also proc Surge of Power. You would use the Surge of Power effect building Maelstrom. And then once you built it using the Surge of Power effects, you'd then spend it with Earth Shock and then get to spend it again on the way down. This had different effects based on Surge of Power. Number one, you were getting more Flame Shocks up. You were able to open with Elemental Blast into double Flame Shocks. And I'm going to run some Mythic Plus where I ran this, and you can see some of the testing that I did. And I'll put the VOD link down below so you can see the entire dungeon. But when it was there, Elemental Blast increased the efficiency of my openers because I was able to Elemental Blast, which by the way now generates 30 Maelstrom, which is quite a lot, but especially if it overloads. But I would be able to Elemental Blast, it would proc Surge of Power, I'd be able to Flame Shock once and it would hit 2 targets. Similar to how S-Priests have the certain talent that allows them to do Vampiric Touch on a different target if they've already casted it once. So it was a really nice thing from a caster point of view to get an opener on double Flame Shocks, especially because right now Flame Shock still has it on a cooldown, unfortunately, and to get the ball rolling. So that was one of the best parts of this, and a lot of people were messaging me like, yo, you should try this out. Try this as the opener. How does it feel? It felt great. That's how you would open up with new pulls. That was one of the ways you could do Surge of Power. Then the Lightning Bolts was just more damage, so you could just include that when you didn't have a Lava Burst up. But with the Lava Burst, when you would use it, it would reduce the Flame Ellie by 6 seconds. Now, this was particularly fun. You were getting Surge of Power procs all the time, and you started to chunk down the cooldown of Fire Elemental. This works really well with the fact that there's a conduit that increased the duration of Flame Elemental by 15%. So those two things together, we were actually having pretty good uptime on Fire Ellie, which also prolongs the effects of Flame Shock. Well, I should say when you put a Flame Shock up, when you have Fire Ellie out, it gets increased. So it was actually a lot of fun. Not only are you having this fun rotation where you get good openers, you're getting good effects with reducing the Fire Ellie cooldown, and then on the way down, you're able to spend the Earth Shock and similarly get the effects. You were getting other benefits like the Earth Shock, the Fire Ellie being on reduced cooldown, all that stuff. Like, all this stuff built up to be an extremely fun playstyle. And the thing that they have kept is the fact that the Earth Shock and LA Blast, again, like when you're building Maelstrom or you're spending it on the up or the down, you're also getting these effects. So that is really good. It's almost like why I feel like they added Elemental Blast to the legendaries. So it's not like you're just fighting for using Earth Shock to get these effects. You're actually able to get it up more often. Don't quote me on that. And I'm just going to take a quick pause here, guys. We are streaming Ellie, Enhance, and Resto Shaman on PvP and PvE every single day on twitch.tv/TiqqleThis. And if you guys haven't yet, because I know 75% of you have not subbed to this channel yet, I would really love the sub. We're pushing for 50K subs, and we're trying to get it as Shadowlands gets released very freaking soon. Now, back to the issue at hand. Number one, this was the best playstyle of Elemental I have ever played in PvE. It was so satisfying. No matter what legendary I was going, especially the ones that procced off both, it felt very smooth. And the fact that I get the procs of legendaries makes me feel like Elemental Blast is the play. The problem is now my legendaries are being affected by Elemental Blast, but I'm not getting the Surge of Power, which is okay, but it kind of makes Surge of Power feel a lot less significant. Elemental Blast feels good, but it feels even better when you're able to augment those secondary effects, the Flame Shocks, the Lava Bursts, all that stuff. It's almost like the Surge of Power should become a legendary, but I don't even want to say that, because it does help with a few issues I feel like Ellie has with opening on in Mythic Pluses and such. So without it, it takes away from the value of Surge of Power, and it makes me feel like we're going to be maybe switching out of it. And if we switch out of Surge of Power, like Elemental Blast felt really good to me because it procced Surge of Power and because of legendaries. Now, because it doesn't proc the Surge of Power, it just does the legendaries, we're going to have to pick and choose. For example, I feel like and this is just my opinion, not based off the Sims yet. They're not up yet. We've got to wait for the boys at Earth Shrine to get that going, and God bless them for doing that. But Elemental Blast now, I don't think we're going to go it unless we're running the build where we're going for Earthquakes, because the Earthquake is a particularly challenging one to have ready quickly if you're doing a Mythic and you have like big pulls, or maybe the mobs are dying fast because you're a group of pumpers or something like that. So I feel like we will go Elemental Blast in that case. But if we go the legendary, which I've been particularly liking because I'm not getting groups that pull huge because Earthquake is on target capped, right? I really like the Lava Burst legendary. The Lava Burst legendary that's on Earthquake or Elemental Blast increases the Lava Burst damage by 30% and gives you a Lava Surge. Now, the Lava Surge is not working right now in the beta. I'm hoping that it does work soon. But I think for that one, if I have a buff of 30% for my Lava Bursts, I'm likely wanting to go Echo so I can echo that damage instead of going, Surge of Power. So I'm expecting that I'm not even going to go Elemental Blast because it doesn't actually do as much damage. You can actually see on certain boss fights that where Elemental Blast doesn't do that much damage, it says it does 1.8k damage. A buffed Lava Burst is doing 5.5k. in my boss testing, which is like 4 times it. It doesn't make sense to use it. So in my opinion, we're only going to be using Elemental Blast if we're going the Earthquake Legendary. I can work with the fact that I got to get the Earth Shocks off to buff the Lava Burst, and then I'll echo them and do like double huge damage. I still need to test it a bit more, but that one feels really good. But what it does is it makes me sad. I loved going LA Blast. LA Blast on a 12-second cooldown, generating that much Maelstrom felt so good. The pacing just felt so smooth. You're going to see in this dungeon, if you could see my face, it was just smiles the whole time. And if you guys test it on the PTR, even my best buddy, Marvel Mike, said, dude, what do I do now? They changed it. And you know what? I don't blame him. Because I hope that you guys were on the PTR to feel it. It felt so good. Now that they're changing, I definitely feel like they're pushing us towards Echoing Shock potentially. So I'm personally envisioning a few builds now. Elemental Blast being good for using the Earthquake Legendary. Echoing Shock being good for taking the Lava Burst Legendary. And then I'm not even sure which one, but Ice Fury being good for taking with the Elemental Equilibrium Legendary, which I'll put up here on the screen. So these are all things that, again, I'm not justifying using Sims, so just keep that in mind. But these are things that I've kind of felt as I've been doing the rotation. So that's kind of my position on what's going on. A lot of people did ask me during the stream, yo, did you see what happened? What do you think? How do you feel? The answer is really, it feels a little sad. I feel like I got lucky and I was able to experience one of the best versions of Ellie and PvE that I've ever felt. Now, was it the best from an AoE perspective? Probably not. I thought it was very smooth for openers. It was very smooth for getting Flame Shocks out there or getting the lowest cooldown I've ever seen on Fire Ellie. But it is what it is. I do think one of the reasons they may have taken it away was because of just spamming the Lava Burst with Surge of Power. because there is a legendary that based on your flame shocks ticking and critting, it will reduce the cooldown of your flame Ellie by like a second. But I don't, which is kind of sad to me, because I feel like if they did that, maybe the legendary needs to be adjusted then, because in my opinion, the legendary really wasn't keeping up with Surge of Power reduction of the flame Ellie, but that's okay. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to kind of give you my viewpoint on this. A lot of people have been asking. This was the one change that happened this past week to Ellie, along with some mana changes, which was actually a welcome change. There was no other changes to Ascendance or the Ascendance Legendary, which I know people have been using to devastating effect in Arena. But with that being said, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments of the change of Elemental Blast. If you think that they should revert that change, if you think that there's another change that they should make along these lines, I guess I'm just sad for Ellie Blast. I thought it was going to really see the light of day, and now I don't know, because that combination was just vibing so good. We'll have to see. Guys, with that being said, I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you so much. See you on the stream, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every day except for Sunday. Take care, everybody.